So it's just a quick video on how you use the mullet, or the Sili mullet. So there's a little, this is the curved salt, Arex curved salt in the one, and all you do, pop the hook backwards through the hook guide, feel it round, turn it in and pop it down, and just pull the hook guide down so it's out of the way. Then attach your thread. You're going to need 3 or 4 mils. Oops, wrong super glue. That one's dead. Just help lock it down. So first off, chunky bit of craft fur. This is in white. Now, going to be about a 3-inch fly, creating a little mullet. So just pop that down. A couple of wraps. You want to use your thumb, spread it down the bottom part of the fly. Wrap down. I'm going to take some grey. Again. And then I'm going to blend it with a bit of sand. Not too much sand. Just blend them together. Gives that nice mullety back. Okay, just line it up. Similar length to the white there. A couple of wraps. Make sure it's all on top of the shank. Well, top half of the shank, should I say. Wrap it down. Just gonna brush it out there. Brush out the excess. I'm gonna trim the butt ends just to neaten it up. Now I'm going to take a bit of flash, in this case crafty flash and pearl, and make it quite a bit of flash. So just folded it in half, trimmed it. Just going to taper that ends there. Okay, you're going to want these just off camera, just past the tips of the craft fur. 2 loose wraps, and then just manipulate it around the shank. Make sure that it's nice and even, not all bunched up in one spot. Couple more wraps just to tighten it down. And just manipulate them around. Now I like to keep the butts on here. I'm just going to pull them all forward. Oops, hold on. Forgot to finish wrapping that down. Bring them forward. Just grab all the butt ends there. 1, 2. And little butt ends will just help add a little bit more pearl into the head there. Right, so the front end, the hole is just over 3 mils thick, and the reason that is it allows you to get just enough amount of material so that it will cover the entire head once it's silicone down. And you can tie it as close to the eye as possible. Oh, wrong one again. I'm just going to pop a drop of glue on there. Slide it forward. Now there's a little lip on the Sili mullet head, and actually all of them, silicone as well. You want to just use 1 or 2 wraps, hold it in place. While the glue dries. There we go. As you can see, that's in there. Right, once that's done, I'm just going to hollow tie this. So bring all the material as if you're hollow tying it. Move all the material back. Bring your thread straight out. A couple of wraps just in front. Build a little thread down and tie off. There we go. That's the bare bones right there. So once you've tied off, just give it a little brush, make sure there's no tangles in the craft there. I'm just going to remove it from the vise there, give you an idea of how it looks. So that's from the front and then from the back. So you just want it all, make sure that all the materials evenly distributed around the hook, around the shank. I'm just popping it in backwards now, because it's going to make it easier, well, I find it easier to apply the silicone with the hook facing backwards. So I've just got a bit of bog standard silicone. I'd normally use aquarium silicone, but I'm all out. Use a razor blade to apply it. So obviously got to be careful of your fingers. So just get a little dollop there on the razor blade, starting at the eye of the hook. Just add a thin layer. When I say thin, I really mean a thin layer. Don't worry if it's uneven, that don't matter. Make sure you get it even coverage right to the edge of the head, like so. It's right down into the that tie-in point. Right, well, you've got an even thing. What I normally do is I start on the bottom of the hook and I just start to lay the materials lightly down into the silicone. Now with silicone, I find it pays to use straight fibres rather than fuzzy fibres. Just to buy craft fur on the smaller ones, I found the best. Craft fur or bucktail, good quality bucktail. You want a nice soft bucktail that will adhere to the curves of the head. You know, that really stiff stuff doesn't quite work. So just before you press it down in properly, just want to make sure that it's evenly distributed. Then just start using my finger and I run it, kind of press the craft fur down into that head. This is why it's important to get it right to the edge of that head, like so. And then you might want to just manipulate it a bit with your fingers again. And that's taking shape nicely there. Now because this is a little mullet pattern and the colours aren't showing up that nicely in this picture, just before I add another coat of silicone, I'm just adding a little yellow dot into the craft there before I coat it, because once it's coated, that's it. It's in, and you can't add any more. Or can't add it. The silicone won't hold the. And just adding a bit of a gill. Not very even that. Fix that there. There we go, so that's your gill in as well. Right. So now that's on there, just going to add a couple of eyes before we top coat it. Just press that in there. Now the reason I use flat eyes rather than 3D eyes is because the flat eyes tend to move with the silicone and flex, and the 3D eyes, obviously they're quite a bit stiffer, they tend to pop out. I'll just clean your razor blade there, and now just going to add another very thin coat over the top of this. You'd think this wouldn't be very durable with a thin coating of, two very thin coatings of silicone, but because of that silly head underneath, it really makes a difference to the durability of these flies. It allows silicone to bond to something, and heads are pretty bulletproof. I mean, it takes a fair bit of effort to rip them. They held up well against teeth so far. Obviously anything can break, but standard silicone without any support would split after any fish, and then you'd be back to repairing it. Right, so that, nice even coat on there. Now don't worry if it's a little bit uneven, because we're about to fix that. So what you do is, this is glycerin that you get in the baking section. Put a drop on your fingers, nice little drop, and then make sure you just rub your finger over the top, and it'll just take away all those lumpy lines, smooth them out. Now don't worry if you put too much glycerin on your finger, it doesn't do any harm to the silicone, and as the silicone dries, the glycerine kind of clumps it together. Don't know what you call that, some scientist probably does, but the glycerin all clumped together, and once the silicone's dry, you can mop it up with a little bit of tissue. That there is how quick a silicone mullet is. I'll leave that to dry overnight and take a couple of pictures in the morning. So the camera's not the best. Once I sort out the filming bits and pieces, I'll be able to do a proper video on this. Anyways, thanks for watching.